Hello, this is the Fiction Nonfiction Podcast from Literary Hub, where we believe that every issue in your social media feed, more on the social media feed later, or on the evening news, has already been tackled somewhere in literature. I'm Whitney Terrell, author of the novel The Good Lieutenant.
I never really thought about this, but maybe we need to revisit the evening news thing as well. I mean, do people watch the evening news or do they just watch the news 24/7? Anyway,
It's
I'm
CNN.
Vivi. I'm Vivi Ganeshananthan, also known as Sugi, author of the novel Brotherless Night, and I don't watch the evening news.
Sugi, you and
Yes.
I both sent children back to school this month. I don't know, are you teaching? Because I had to go back to school too.
I also, yes, I am teaching.
Okay, so we sent ourselves back to school as well. Um, you know who had a harder time doing that?
Yes, I do. The Haitian immigrants of Springfield, Ohio, who were the subject of racist, stupid rumors spread by Republican vice presidential candidate and at-large scumbag and general jackass J.D. Vance. That city and that community are being devastated by threats, including to schools, after Vance claimed that some of his constituents had said Haitian immigrants were abducting and eating their pets.
Yeah, it sounds like a National Enquirer headline. I think you're letting off good old Trump, who brought this up in the debate with Kamala Harris. I think basically when he was getting desperate because he was losing badly. And when he said it, and now since then, people have been laughing about the way he said they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people who live there, which is now stuck in my head in a way that I would prefer for it not to be there. But it's also important not to laugh because while Vance and Trump are absolutely ridiculous, this demagoguery and racism poses a real danger.
So, for our listeners, we're taping this on Sunday, September 22nd. And just 2 days ago, the New York Times ran an op ed by Ohio's Republican governor, Mike DeWine, who noted that in Springfield, bomb threat hoaxes are ongoing, and there have been temporary closures of at least two schools, lockdown of a hospital, the closure of City Hall, two local colleges operating remotely, and DeWine has put Ohio Highway Patrol troopers in each school building. I just want to note, because it's especially odious to me, that he wrote this op ed and like immediately after the paragraph in which he said this, he was like, as a supporter of Trump and
I
JD
know that was
Vance.
bad. That was bad. That was
No.
bad.
Anyway,
All right, so given this horrific set of circumstances for Haitian Americans, we wanted to spend some time talking about the Haitian American community's history in the United States, to discuss their history of immigration and their contributions, and also their writers. And for that conversation, we're delighted to be joined by the novelist and critic Myriam Chancy. Myriam Chancy is the author most recently of the novel Village Weavers, a Time Best Book of April 2024. Her work has received multiple awards, including an American Book Award from the Before Columbus Foundation, the Guyana Prize in Literature, a Forward Indies Book of the Year Gold Prize, and the Isis Duarte Book Prize. Her previous novel, What Storm, What Thunder, was named a Best Book of 2021 by NPR, Kirkus, Library Journal, the Boston Globe, and the Globe and Mail. Her past novels include The Loneliness of Angels, The Scorpion's Claw, and The Spirit of Haiti. She's also the author of several academic books, including Harvesting Haiti, Reflections on Unnatural Disasters, and Framing Silence, revolutionary novels by Haitian women. She is a Guggenheim Fellow and an HBA Chair of the Humanities at Scripps College in California. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're thrilled to have you here. You're the author of multiple books about and set in Haiti, including your latest, Village Weavers. We've set the scene in our opening here with what's going on with J.D. Vance's racist, terrible comments and some of their consequences for Haitian Americans. But we want to back up and provide some context here. Haiti is a country famous for its revolution, a successful revolt of enslaved people, which led to independence in 1804. The Spanish, the French, and the United States have all left imperial footprints there. And the U.S. is the top destination for Haitian immigrants today. There are 1.1 million people of Haitian descent in the United States. When did Haitian immigrants first come to the U.S.? And were there distinct waves of immigration that's useful to understand in this context?
Well, it's a very complicated history, and thank you for mentioning the Haitian Revolution. I think I would want to start by saying that, in fact, the immigration really went towards Haiti rather than from Haiti to the US because of the revolution. So you had, because Haiti declared its independence and was the first country in the hemisphere to abolish slavery, they also invited people of African descent from the United States and elsewhere in Latin America to come to Haiti to enjoy that freedom. Before the Haitian revolutions, and there were also people from who were conscripted in the French army, especially Poles, who defected to the Haitian side, to the rebels, in order to gain their freedom. And they're still descendants of Poles to this day in Haiti. So we'd have to begin there with this understanding that the flow really was to Haiti rather than out of Haiti. And then what occasions a flow towards the United States rather than to France and to Canada, French Canada specifically, was the encroachment of a US occupation from 1915 to 1934, and the involvement of the United States in well, not only the changing of the constitution of Haiti, its seizing of its coffers, et cetera, but the Duvalier regime, so that you had an increased flow from the 30s to the 50s. And then, of course, in the 80s, when the economy really faltered at the end of the dictatorship, then you had an increased flow of migration to the United States. That changes dramatically after 2010. For different reasons after the earthquake, where there's a flow of immigration to Latin America and South America, where Haitians are invited to places like Chile, Brazil, on special visas. And so what we saw in 2021 with the influx of Haitians to the US-Mexico border actually has to do with what has brought us to talk today, with false information being funneled through social media throughout Latin America and South America, telling Haitians that if they went to the border, that they would be given special refugee status in the United States, when in fact that was not the case. So the migration patterns have changed over time. But it's important to understand that it's because of the United States involvement in the US, in Haiti, that the flow of immigration to the United States has taken place, which is the case for many immigrant groups in the United States today, but usually it's a foreign policy of the United States that has occasioned a movement of people to the US.
So you're saying this has been a long historical process, is not exclusively Kamala Harris's fault, as
Well,
the Republicans keep saying.
But in fact, what's happening now, the rhetoric around Haitians right now is very complicated, because what's happening in Springfield, Ohio, from what I've understood, has to do with the fact that the Haitian immigrant population that was invited there, to come to fill different occupations, has been very successful, has been successfully integrated, has boosted the economy. And so this kind of backlash on a population of immigrants to one small city, which seems outsized, when in fact Haitians represent a very small percentage of immigrants to the United States, is a very interesting scenario.
So I want to rewind.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
You want to
Go
rewind,
ahead,
but I
Wade.
want to say, well, I'm going to go on with what she's saying real quick, because I don't think we have another place where we're going to do this. I think it's important to note that 3, 2, 1. I do think it's important to note that. I mean, notably, very recently to this recording, the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times saying, look, these people they're helping Springfield, not hurting it, And I think that's true. You can see that commonly I live in Kansas City, and so there are towns in Iowa and Kansas where other immigrant populations from other countries have come to work and do jobs that are needed in those towns, and those towns would otherwise be losing population. In a way, this is an immigrant success story, not a disaster.
Absolutely. But, it's one of the things to understand about Haiti is that it's a political pawn, and that has always been the case. Yeah.
So to go back a little bit to some of the history you invoked, because some of it appears in your book and is also, of course, part of the way that perhaps the Haitian diaspora and or the country are spoken about generally. Like you mentioned the Duvaliers. I wonder if you could unpack that a little bit, because they're two very distinct and powerful historical characters who loom very large in recent Haitian history.
two characters in the sense
I
of,
guess I'm thinking of Papa Doc and Baby Doc
oh, well, father and son. Yes. Well, so we
for our
have
listeners who might not know.
sure, the Duvalier regime lasted from 1957, when Papa Doc came into power, seized power. He infiltrated the society through Vodou. He was also, and this is the US connection, he also worked for the US Marines as a physician, and he was noted for eradicating dengue fever at the time. So this would have been in the, late 40s, early 50s. And he got to know the population, especially the rural population, by working as a physician in this capacity. And then he infiltrated Vodou society. And what that means is that then he replaced like the priest with his own henchmen. He created a secret police. He was very different from other Latin American dictators in that his victims were often not political. So he both attacked political, what he considered his political enemies, especially people on the left, literary people, writers. So many people had to flee under this dictatorship, but he also would attack everyday people. So the reign of terror was extreme. And then he made himself president for life. And then when he passed on, his 19-year-old son, Baby Doc, became the leader, de facto leader of a country. And he was deposed by an uprising, a Haitian-led grassroots uprising, which unsettled him, called the Déchoucage of 1986. And then the first really free elections were held that brought Aristide to power in 1990. And then Aristide was in power for a very brief time before a military coup took him out, and then there was a back and forth. And so, and then the US gets re-involved in a more stringent way from that point on, taking out Aristide in 2004, when he wanted to make reclamations in international court to get the indemnity that Haiti was forced to pay returned from France to Haiti. And your listeners might know that the New York Times ran a very long expose about this a couple of years ago, which demonstrated that France owes something like $44 billion to Haiti. And these are reparations for war losses, which is almost, unheard of. I think I just heard recently that Indonesia also had to pay an indemnity of this kind to the Dutch, which I had never heard of before. But so it's uncommon, but it does happen. But it is the beginning of Haiti's poverty. And next year, 2025, will be the 100-year anniversary of that indemnity.
I was actually reading that some people put this amount at higher because of like interest and things like that. And to be clear, like when you say war losses, right, this is that Haiti was paying France for the liberation of formerly enslaved persons, partially. Is that
so what happened is that France was, it was a colony of France. About a seventh of the population made its money directly or indirectly from resources taken out of Haiti. And they lost a lot of warships, they lost a lot of men, they lost plantations. And so they blocked Haiti from being recognized globally and from having access to global trade. And so in order to regain access to global trade, they then said, well, you're going to have to pay this indemnity to repair our war losses. So for all of that, not only for the enslaved populations and so forth, but for all of those losses, because that was the only ever war Napoleon lost, right before Waterloo. So which a lot of people don't realize,
So you beat us in a
lost.
war, but now owe us money.
Yeah, and interestingly, the end of the repayment of that indemnity was repaid to the US, because the US actually took part of that debt in the early 20th century, and then, which is also goes hand in hand with the US occupation. And this is also how the US gets involved. And New York Times expose doesn't talk a great deal about that, but that is part of the issue here in terms of who owes whom what. And then the battle over Haiti goes back to the revolution and the fact that it caused a great deal of trouble in the United States, that a country at a time when it wasn't believed that people of African descent could free themselves, that could arm themselves and free themselves, but a country did, and then influence, enslaved populations, not only throughout Latin America, but also in the southern states.
Thank you so much for this incredible nuanced sketch of this history, which I think our listeners will find so valuable. Um, and I mean, all of this, of course, is sort of right, like this unique narrative of Haitian liberation, sort of pitched against the imperial powers of the world. And so you, of course, have your own immigration story. You were born in Haiti, and left. Can you tell us a little bit about how your own journey went?
Sure. Well, my parents are both Haitian, but they actually met in France. And then they had one child there, and then they decided they were going to return to Haiti and have me there. This was why I was born in Port-au-Prince. And this was in 1970, so this is when Baby Doc took over, the country. And my parents, who had varied occupations. My mother was an accountant. My father was a philosopher slash troubadour. He was also a singer. They were engaged in teaching at that time, realized that there was going to be no way to stay in the country. This was at a time that if you were in any kind of professional work, you had to make arrangements with people in government in order to stay. And they realized that that is not something they could do. So at that point, Canada was recruiting Francophone people from different parts of the world to French Canada, and Haiti, having a professional class, was one of the targeted countries. And so my parents emigrated to Canada. So we went back and forth between Port-au-Prince and Haiti for some time. So my immigration story is a little bit different in that I wasn't really integrated in Canadian society until I would say maybe around 4 or 5. And then my parents moved us to Anglophone Canada, the only Francophone quarter in Anglophone Canada, which is in Winnipeg. So they worked in the French quarter. They mainstreamed us in the Anglophone world. And then I ended up coming to the US actually as a PhD student in my early 20s. And I went to Iowa.
It's very it's strange to me that none of these nuances about America's relationship with Haiti come up on CNN, much less Fox, while this current issue is being discussed. So we're going to now have to pivot to the way Americans are talking about Haiti, unfortunately, and the false information being spread by J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. So we're going to go through a thing of here's where I did some research, so I'm going to read it now.
Okay.
It all started, according to NewsGuard, which did a great investigation on this. There was a Springfield resident named Erica Lee. She made a Facebook post about a neighbor's missing cat. Well, it wasn't a neighbor's missing cat, about a missing cat. She wrote that her neighbor had told her that her neighbor's daughter's friend had lost her cat and then came home from work to find it, quote, I'm quoting oh, my dog is here. Hold on just a second. Doggy, you can't do this. Go lay down. Go lay down. Go lay down. Okay.
And your dog as well. That's just a little joke.
Yeah, I have not eaten my
Not
dog.
sure where you live, but
I have not done that. All right, 3, 2, 1. She wrote that a neighbor informed her that her daughter's friend lost her cat and then came home from work to find it, quote, and I'm quoting the post now, hanging from a branch like you do a deer for butchering in the yard of her Haitian neighbors. So Erica Lee, who made the post, heard this from the neighbor Kimberly Newton, who said she heard it from a friend who said she'd learned about it from a source that she had. So Newton has admitted now, I didn't have any proof of this at all because there's not any, right? And the post was on a Facebook group called Springfield, Ohio Crime and Information Group. And we all know that those kinds of groups never post terrible rumors that have no facts associated with them. And then it went viral when a conservative X user screenshotted it and a bunch of large conservative accounts started distributing it. And then it came to the president. So I want to talk first, before we get to J.D. Vance and to Trump, about the role that social media has played in all this. You've already mentioned social media when you were talking about the reason that some Haitian immigrants are being told to come to the border.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think social media can play a good role and it obviously can play a devil's advocate role as it is in this situation. I wish people wouldn't post misinformation about groups especially groups that they don't belong to. And this person apparently
That's
apologized.
Everybody's favorite kind of misinformation. That's the only kind of information.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I got involved in social media in 2010 after the 2010 earthquake. And it was the only way that I could get in touch with people on the ground and help find people. So I don't think all social media is bad. It's one of the ways in which a lot of Haitians, and I would imagine other immigrant populations, get information and provide information about their culture to others. And now I'm seeing a lot of posts, people, posting about Haitian food and what Haitians, what Haitian culture really is about. So I think social media can definitely misinform us. And this is why, at least those of us who are educators, really have a burden to, help people understand how to use social media in a way that is conducive to improving how we know each other rather than destroying different communities on hearsay.
Is it possible? I really, this is a genuine question. Like, so TikTok went absolutely nuts when Trump brought this up in the speech, and there are thousands, there not thousands, but there are songs, right? It became a meme in that sense. And is one thing they say about misinformation, it's very difficult. If you fact check it, it doesn't matter. People don't, the
Sure.
fact checking doesn't become as amplified as the original misinformation, right? But these crazy songs were amplified and they were a way of laughing at Trump. Does that work? Is that effective, or no? Does that just perpetuate a bad
Well,
stereotype?
I don't know. I mean, I personally don't follow those streams of information because that's not where I get my information from. But what I know is that whether you're, on the right or on the left, people want entertainment. And so, I think Vance and Trump were using this misinformation as a way to entertain the troops. They know it's misinformation, but it's entertaining. And those who follow them don't really care whether it's true or untrue. They are anti-immigration. So whatever works for giving a larger population a sense that immigration is a threat is what they're going to use, especially in a case where this particular group has been successful in integrating. And my information, I did a little fact checking myself, is that Haitians are actually of different immigrant groups, one of the more successful groups who integrate into society, not necessarily because of language or culture, but because of chain immigration and the kinds of positions they're willing to take because things are so dire in Haiti itself. So people are laughing at, they have the TikTok songs and so forth. Lots of different communities are making light of this because it's also how you persevere. When you're being laughed at yourself, when your community is being laughed at, you turn the tables. So I don't know that there's anything wrong with that per se, but I do think we need to put the focus back on, well, what good is really occurring in the community in Springfield and elsewhere, and what is it that we don't know about each other's cultures that maybe could make sure that we extinguish these kinds of lies when they come up immediately.
Sugi, you should take the next question because
yeah.
We just mislabeled there.
3, 2, 1. So just thinking about that, I mean, it's interesting because I remember seeing a social media post, and I can't remember on which stream at this point, but it was sort of like, if you laughed at this, or if you made a joke about it, you should also be aware that this posed real danger to people, and it's not simply funny. And here a list of like, Haitian-related nonprofits to which you could donate if you made a joke like that, which was something that I appreciated. I also I see people, I mean, when people making this joke, the people I hear making this joke are mocking the joke to mock Trump. And it's sort of like, right, it's like, I don't know, it's like a 7-layer mockery cake where you're just sort of like, is everyone going to be able to taste all the flavors? I don't know.
Well, some of the ones that I saw were, they show Trump saying it and they show Kamala's face, not believing him or being amazed or shocked that so it's clear that they're, anyway, go ahead.
I mean, I think it's clear to us, right? And I think, right, that there are also people there must be other dark corners of the internet. I mean, presumably, Erica Lee lives in one of these where the other version of this is going on. So it's just like, I don't know, as a person who sometimes teaches comedy and like, what does it mean to punch up or down? I find this interesting. Go ahead.
But I think there's something more complex going on. I went on tour in April and I was mostly on the East Coast. And different people who came, to readings were talking to me about the fact that the US and the UN had decided that they're going to send a Kenyan delegation troops into Haiti. And this hadn't happened yet. I think it happened in June or July. And there was a lot of conversation about why is this happening? Why is it happening now? And the general consensus was that it's happening now because it is a way for the Biden administration to show, military strength in the hemisphere and somehow divert attention from what's happening in other parts of the world where they have proxies, like the Middle East and so forth. And so to my mind, I think this is interesting because what I think is happening is that then the other political side is taking a pot shot at Haiti as a way to say, you think you've done something that makes it seem as if you're doing something that's really helping the tide of immigration, or that is going to set this country on the right course. Forgetting history, forgetting that the US is really responsible for so much leveling of infrastructure in Haiti. It wasn't just the dictatorship. And also forgetting that UN involvement has been completely catastrophic in Haiti, not only in terms of the rapes of women, children, which has been demonstrated from 2007 to 2017, where women's groups actually were the ones who got them out. And then, the cholera epidemic, which occurred on the heels of the 2010 earthquake, when cholera had been eradicated for something like 100 years in Haiti. So there's a lot, that the UN and the US has been responsible for in Haiti that can't be set right. And yet the idea was, let's send in the Kenyans, let's change the optics, not have white men going into Haiti, but Black men going into Haiti, African men, and hope that that will change something. But we know that the numbers of Kenyan troops that have been sent in cannot do anything. They've sent in about 300 people when you need a force of at least 10,000 to have some result. And we know in the past that those results have been ineffective. So I think this is about changing the discourse from what is the US relationship to Haiti to one of ridicule of Haitians specifically, when Haitians who have come to the United States, who've been invited to the United States, have actually been able to make good and demonstrate that there is nothing congenitally wrong with Haitians or Haiti at all. So I think there's something much larger going on, which a joke or misinformation actually kind of flattens in such a way that we are not able to access the history, either the ongoing history or the long history behind it. I think that's what's happening.
Excuse me. 3, 2, 1. Thank you for that really useful historical contextualizing and nuance again. Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like, I come from sort of like a left literary tradition, and I'm used to my friends speaking with me about Haiti as though it is an extraordinary historical example of people seeking and achieving their own liberation. But I don't know that that's, yeah, but I don't think that that's certainly not the predominant thread. In
not
like say
in the United States,
right?
sure.
Not in mainstream American education. So, I also, people that I thought, I don't know why I thought this person would have been smarter than this, but I noticed that like Marianne Williamson, for example, sort of,
did you just use the word smart and Marianne Williamson together? I'm not. What's going on there?
I don't know why I thought that this person would have known better, but Marianne Williamson sort of like doubled down a little bit on the Vance thing and was sort of like, this isn't totally concocted, like Haitians do voodoo. And I was like, people are really
just stereotype too.
Exactly. Like
there is voodoo, but it is a spirituality. And there's a long history also going back to US films in the 1920s, using voodoo, like the American version of voodoo, to demonize Haitians, when in fact, we still go back to the history. Why is Vodou so important in Haitian culture? Because it was the basis for communication amongst African descended people who did not have the same linguistic, roots, and they could communicate with this spirituality and its traditions. And it was also a way to practice healing when you had no access to formal medicine, which is still the case today, which actually was actually very important during COVID, that people used local healing methods and were able to help a lot of people. So the misinformation around what the society is about. So I'm also shocked, Sugi. I didn't know she had made those kinds of comments because she is a, pseudo spiritual leader, I suppose. But to not know enough about other people's spiritualities and to be able to make a declaration like that is a problem.
Yeah.
So this is something I do engage in my fiction, actually, which is I don't do in my literary criticism, but is to engage Vodou, sometimes not naming it, but so that people, when they read the novels, have a sense of how rich this culture is and how beautiful it is, and that the Vodou is really about connecting to nature and to the healing powers in nature. That's really all it's about.
Whitney, on that note, I wonder if I should go ahead and pivot to the novel or if I should ask
Yeah, I
the
think you should. I would say just like note the long-standing
okay,
stereotype of this that it exists and has a history, and then go on to the
sure.
novel question
Okay.
would be great.
3, 2, 1. And of course, I think this sort of xenophobic stereotyping has connections to other communities. There is, like, of course, like an East Asian stereotype about eating dogs, which strikes me as similar and has also been weaponized in similar ways. So, like the great web of xenophobia, like
Yeah,
horrifically connected. I do want to pivot to your beautiful novel, which traces the relationship between two Haitian women, Gertie and Cece, across time through great personal and political upheaval, including some of the historical eras that you've already contextualized for us. So Cece sees Martha Jean-Claude, the singer, at the Expo 49. And I wonder if you would tell us a little bit about Martha Jean-Claude in that era and read us that passage from the book.
sure. I'd be happy to. Um, I decided to write about the expo because very few people know that there was an international expo in Haiti from 1949 to 1950, which brought people from all over the world. So again, like the reverse of, thinking that Haitians are only the ones leaving, but really people wanting to go to Haiti to be part of this cultural phenomenon. People from the States, Miles Davis, Dizzy Gillespie played there during the expo, and it made a star of Martha Jean-Claude. And so part of what I do in the novel, so these girls are born in the 30s, they come of age in the 40s. I wanted to trace what Haitian culture was like before the Duvalier regime. And so one of the girls, Cece, who sees this concert, will leave for France. The other girl will leave for the Dominican Republic and then eventually to the US. But I wanted to paint a picture of what their childhoods were like and their young adulthood before those departures took place. And so this is the moment that she and one of their best friends, Lou, go to the concert, go to the expo. Lou happens to be Italian Haitian. There's also an Italian immigration to Haiti, also Lebanese, Syrian. I mean, there are so many different groups in Haiti. I think it's worth noting how mixed the population has been. And so I'll just read from this section where Martha Jean-Claude comes onto the stage. And this is the beginning of her fame. She'll go on to sing with Celia Cruz, and she will have to leave under the dictatorship later on. So this is Lou. Want to drag, kiddo? Lou asks, her eyes twinkling. Lou is laughing at her discreetly. Cece knows. She bristles at being called kiddo. They are the same age, after all. Sure, she says, I'm game. She's never smoked before and chokes back tears on the first try. Not as easy as it looks, Lou says jovially, patting Cece on the back until she regains her breath. It's a dirty habit anyway. I wouldn't recommend it. Look, look. And she points up toward the stage. There she comes. Oh, what a sight it is. Cece has never seen anything like it, anyone like her, as resplendent as Martha Jean-Claude, who comes onto the stage with arms wide, smiling from ear to ear in such a way that it makes clear to the audience that she knows she is luminous. The copper skin of her bare arms and shoulders glow from within, and her two-tiered necklace made from carved abalone shell sparkles and gives off a blue hue under the stage lights, which produce a halo effect around her form as if she were a heavenly apparition. She is a peacock with all of her plumage out, with her hair piled high underneath a head wrap that has been swirled around large curls to form a crest atop her head. She wears a light yellow cocktail dress with a form-fitting satin bodice held up by thin spaghetti straps, and a billowing taffeta skirt sashed with a multicolored checkered madras cloth. Jean-Claude struts across the stage in heels 2 inches high that make her appear to levitate. And as she moves the cord of a microphone across her body expertly so as not to trip over it while making her way toward the waiting crowd, raising the microphone to her lips, the drummers seated on the stage behind her start to beat out a fast syncopation that brings everyone in the audience up on their feet. She begins to sing Racine, a Roots love song. The lyrics speak of seizing a young man's love, holding on to him until the singer's heart bursts. Jean-Claude makes enticing circling gestures with her free hand alongside her hip bone. Everyone in the crowd grabs whoever is closest to them, whether woman or man, and dances. Lou reaches for Cece, and they jump up and down to the rhythm of the drums. The crowd presses from all sides. There is no room to move, but it feels like heaven, a true gathering of joy. And a Racine song is a song that people would sing that's related to Vodou. It just means roots.
Thank you so much. It's a beautiful passage. When we were chatting before this interview, you told me that one of the goals of this section of the book was to alter the narrative about what people know of Haiti. How do you hope that that narrative will change? And do you think a novel can be an effective way to combat the kind of disinformation we see coming from the likes of J.D. Vance and Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, this is why I write. I think it's why we all write, is to try to, infuse through literature a means by which our readers can feel, if not empathy, sympathy for our characters, but hopefully to feel as if they were in their place. So in a moment like this one, seeing a teenage Cece enamored of this, Haitian woman on the stage, that the reader will feel the same way. And then that will shift a preconception about the culture, Haitian culture, about Vodou, now knowing that there were famous singers that came out of Haiti and are still. And it's also displacing the history, that to think that there was nothing before the Duvalier regime, that there was nothing before, this instance in the 40s. To not understand the long history of Haiti is to misunderstand its people today. So that's what I hope the literature can do. And then also, with these characters, because when I do bring them through the Duvalier regime and then their immigration to France, and then ultimately they both end up in the United States, how people yearn to return often, but cannot return. So sometimes there's a misnomer that people come to the United States to live the American dream, but sometimes they come simply because they're displaced because of economic forces, political forces, and sometimes there is no path for return, especially if a country is caught, between different political forces.
One of the other narratives that I hear from people who are on the left and thinking that they're speaking sympathetically about the people in Springfield is they'll say, I don't know if you've heard people say this, but I feel like I've heard a lot of left-leaning commentators say, they begin it by saying, well, Haiti's just a wreck. That's a terrible place. And all these people have done is left this disastrous area and come here to look for a better life. And I just feel like that's not really helpful, to say that, actually, although you think that you're helping.
Yeah, it's not helpful, and it also distorts history because, again, after the earthquake, I think 16 to 22 billion dollars went into Haiti in a revolving fashion, went in and came right out. So there was no real investment in the people, in rebuilding their homes, their infrastructures. We all by now should know the NPR, examination of the Red Cross and the fact that they only built, I think, 7 buildings with all the money that they were given. So, we can look to a country like Haiti and maybe others and say, oh, their government is unstable or there's corruption. But there's also corruption, in what we call the international community when they don't have the capacity to provide aid in a way that changes the colonial dynamic. I think this is the bigger issue that a response like that doesn't get at. What is our responsibility, to understand the history and then to change that dynamic, to change the history so that we're not participating in stripping a country of its natural resources and at this point of its labor because that's essentially Haiti's role in this hemisphere is to provide cheap labor. I mean, I would mention, I'm not a partisan of Aristide per se, but I would mention that the other reason he was taken out in 2004 is that he attempted multiple times to raise the minimum wage in Haiti, and he was told no by the United States. So when you realize that people are being exploited, to a degree that is extreme, of course, people want to find a way out, but maybe they shouldn't have to find a way out.
I wanted to, I mean, obviously, we're having you on because we feel like your book's, contributing to the real narrative of Haiti, and we appreciate that. But also, I had the privilege of I put together, I was asked once by Pleiades magazine, which is a literary magazine, to do a series of like French of translations of French authors, and I ended up
Mhm.
asking, I did not myself do the translation, do the translation of a story by Yannick Lahens, if I'm saying her name right,
Laes, Yannick
Lahens.
Laes. Mhm.
And it's a great story. She had not had a lot of work translated in English, so there's a number also of Haitian writers that American readers who don't read
Might not
French would
know.
not be aware of. I wondered if you could
Mhm.
talk about some of them.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize that even though there's a few of us writing in English and based in the United States mostly, Haiti has a really long literary history. The first books by Haitian women, first novels by Haitian women, actually appeared in response to the U.S. occupation. So the first book by Haitian women was published in 1929 by Cléante Desgraves, and it actually has just been translated by the University of Virginia Press. I think it just came out this spring. Yannick Laes, who you mentioned, is probably the best known Haitian writer internationally, actually. And
She's good.
yeah, she's very good. She won the Prix Femina a few years ago in France, which is one of France's top prizes. There is also Marie-Célia Agnan, who is in Canada, in Montreal, also an award-winning Haitian-Canadian writer. Valérie Barre, who's a younger upcoming writer. There is also Mackenzie Orcel, who was translated by Nathan Dees for SUNY Press, a very well-known poet and novelist based in France. And then equally well-known as Yannick would be Lionel Trouillot, who is still based in Haiti, and Gary Victor, also based in Haiti, published in Montreal. So there's a plethora of people, and most of them are beginning to be translated. I should mention also Kitty Mars, who just came out of Haiti a couple of years ago because of what's happening there, but is normally based in Port-au-Prince and had a novel called I Am Alive, just translated also by Nathan Dees recently. So
That's an
there's a lot to
incredible
choose
list.
from.
That's an incredible list. So we have show notes for our listeners. So we will link to the New York Times piece Myriam mentioned. We'll link to that NPR piece. We'll link to all of these writers. You can go and find them at your local independent bookstore. And of course, your work. Listeners, don't miss Village Weavers and Myriam's other work. Critical and creative, the full range. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise and time with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for taking the time to disinform the disinformation.